Alright, in this video we are going to add dimensions to your model in your drawing file. So, before we jump into that though, I want you to go back into your Unit 3 in your OneNote binder and review those linear dimensioning guideline notes as well as the actual guidelines that I provided you in the text form. So there's 16 rules that we talked about, and based on those 16 rules, if you remember, you took screenshots of a bad version versus a good version. So I want you to review these right now because you're going to utilize these skills as you go add your dimensions into your model. So please go look this over right now. And now that you're done looking over those rules, let's go ahead and talk about our model because we need to add in these dimensions. Notice that all of my dimensions, excuse me, all the dimensions are in between the adjacent views. So these two are in between the front and the right. These two are in between the front and the top. Again, between the top and the right side, you got these two, and then you got this one in between the top and the front. You'll also notice that all the dimensions have a nice little space between the actual model and the extension line. The extension line isn't running into the model. That's a key thing because if that extension line is going into the model, you sometimes can't tell, how long is that versus what's the dimension. So you always have a nice little space like you see there. You also notice my spacing in between the dimensions is all nice and neat. So I'm going to show you how to do all that right now in your own drawing. So let me go ahead and delete those dimensions and then we're going to add them into yours. So I'm going to start with the front view and I'm going to work on the width dimensions. So remember that's from here to here within the drawing. Now quick tip, whenever you're going to go add dimensions, I always start with the smaller features and then work my way to the overall size. So to add dimensions, we're going to go to the annotate ribbon up top and we're going to click on the dimension, which falls within that dimension panel. There are some other ones that we'll talk about later on, but let's just start with this first one. It's D on the keyboard in case you want to just use your keyboard shortcut. And then my first width dimension, the smallest feature is this part. But if I dimension that, it's going to run into the model right here. So I'm going to hit escape for a second. And instead of dimensioning that, I'm going to start with this feature here. So now when you dimension in Inventor, there's two different ways you could do it. You can actually just click on the line, or you can click the start and finish of that line that you want to dimension. So for example, I could click this start right here and then this finish to add the dimension. So for this one, I'm just going to hover over the line and left click it. Notice it turned red. And then if I move my mouse up slowly, you'll see it stop and then turn into a dotted line, which is helping you space it correctly. So that's where I'm going to left click again. And as soon as I do that, this edit dimension window pops up. That's if you want to change something within the dimension, you could, but I'm just going to click OK. And then it added that dimension. Notice that the dimension tool is still highlighted blue, so it thinks that I still want a dimension, which I do. So the next thing that I would want to do is, so that was this feature. The next biggest feature would be from, here to here. Now let me show you the wrong way of doing this and then the right way. So the wrong way would be maybe just clicking this line and then clicking this line and adding my dimension, which actually, that works actually. I take that back. You can just do that. So hold on, let me do that one more time. Dimension. I could just click on this line and then this line and then move my mouse up. There's my dotted lines and I could left click to add the dimension. That's one way you could do it. Instead of clicking the lines though, you could also just click the ends of the line. So I could click that point, the green dot, and this point. So either way we'll get the job done. Okay, so I got those two dimensions. So those are my width dimensions for the front view. So now I would maybe start doing some height dimensions, but I don't want to run a dimension from here to here because then it's going to cross that other one. So I want to avoid that. So I can add that same dimension over here in the right side view. So let's give some height dimensions in the right side view. So I'm going to go into the dimension tool. And remember, I always start with the smaller features and then work my way to the overall. So the smaller height feature I want to provide is this dimension. So I'm going to left click that. Bring it out, see the dotted lines, left click again, and say OK. Now I'm going to give the overall height, so I'm going to go from here to here, and then move my mouse out, get that good spacing right there, and say OK. So those are the height dimensions. Now I would need to start giving some depth. So I've got width, height, and now I need depth. Now depth, remember, is from like here to here. So I wouldn't want to do this because then I'd have that dimension running into that. So I can provide that same dimension actually up here, which would be from here to here. That provides depth, which is the same as that dimension. So I will be doing that up here. So let's go ahead and give some depth dimensions. So I'm going to go... Let's see. Let's start with the smaller features first. So I'm going to go here, right there, and then I'm going to go to the overall depth, which would be from there to there, like so. And then I'm almost done. There's actually one dimension I'm missing, and I want you to see if you could spot it. Pause the video and see if you could spot the one missing dimension. The one that I'm missing is this right here. Missing that dimension right there. And again, I did that in between the views. Remember, that was the one that we were going to do down here, but then it would have ran through my model. So to avoid that, I decided to put it up here. So that is a fully dimensioned model. Remember, you got to hit escape to get out of the tools. So I hit escape and dimension is no longer highlighted blue. And this is your first drawing file. So the next thing that we would have to do is print. So, whoops, not sure what I just did. Let me pause. So the next thing we would want to do is print. So the print icon is right up here in your quick access area, or I can press Control P on the keyboard. Either one would work. When I do that, the first thing we're going to want to do is set up the printer. Now, we've been getting new printers in and out of the room, so this may be changing, but the current printer that you're looking for is the HP Color LaserJet here. And then if we had multiple sheets, you would do all sheets, but we only have one drawing here. So I'm just going to do current sheet. Some other things that you have the ability to control is if you wanted to rotate it, or do you just want to do black and white. We're not going to do that. We're not going to remove object line weights. We're going to leave that. And we want everything to stay at 1:1 like we currently see it. And I always preview. So I'm going to click on preview. I'm just double checking. Now, this is kind of where you're proofreading your work. This is how you can help me save paper by eliminating mistakes. Because if you see a mistake, you're just going to hit close and cancel the print. Go make those corrections and then fix it. So please always do a preview to help eliminate the wasting of paper in the room. So always double check your work. So if I missed a dimension, I could hit close, and then I could go back in and make those changes, and then go back into the print. When you're done, hit OK to print, and then finally screen clip this into your binder. So we'll have a subtractive drawing model page in your binder for you to screen clip that in there. And that is it. That was your first drawing. Oh, and don't forget to save. Hit that save button.